Hey book besties, welcome back to my channel. Today I thought we could do something a little bit different. Recently I've been doing a lot of recommendation videos. I just posted a video for books I would recommend for Pride Month, and I also posted a video for summer reading recommendations. With that said, I thought we needed to do something different, and I finally decided to bust out my book embosser. Basically, I have been procrastinating on using this. I got it for Christmas from my sister, so I've had it for about 6 months and I haven't used it yet. And the reason why is it is a little bit daunting. I have quite a few books that I need to sort. I just knew it was going to be a lot of work. However, I know that once I'm done, I just need to keep up on it as I get new books. So it's now or never, I feel like. The extra fun part about videos like this is I get to give you a little bit of a shelf tour, which I don't think I have done before. And my shelves are not super aesthetic, nothing crazy special like you see on a lot of booktube channels, but I'm working with some limited space here because this is my home office. And so this is my office slash hobby room slash everything. So I don't have a whole bunch of space. There is another room in this house that is called the lounge, and there are a bunch of bookshelves in there as well, but I wanted to go ahead and keep these smaller shelves in here and really focus on some of the books that I love the most. And then I have a bunch of books that I maybe don't like as much upstairs. So part of this video is going to be sorting because I want to try to make some more space on these shelves. So I need to decide which books I want to keep in this room or take upstairs. So I figure we have about like 4 categories to sort books into, and that's because my sister spent extra money to have it come with these gold foil stamps. I thought it'd be really fun to use the gold to indicate a book that is one of my all-time favorites, and then use just the standard page emboss for books that I like and want to keep in this part of my library but aren't necessarily like my all-time favorites. So we need to sort into those 2 categories, and then I also need to sort books that I want to keep in this room but not emboss at all, and then of course the books that I want to move up into the library. We have our work cut out for us, and maybe this doesn't look like a lot of books, and it's not, but I do have another shelf just like this behind me that you can't see right now, and we're going to eventually do that as well. The TV stand behind me kind of features some of my themed shelves. It's kind of some shelves that are dedicated to books that mean something to me or that just fit perfectly in those shelves. So the green books right there are Anne of Green Gables. Those are some custom book covers from Juniper Books that I splurged on a few years ago. Below that is my deluxe edition of The Hunger Games, and there's a little empty space on that shelf, and that's where I keep my book embosser, so that's why it looks empty right now. The colorful rainbow stack is my collection of Jane Austen books, and then just to the side of that is a stack of books that I think just looks good together. It's Project Hail Mary, which I love, one of my all-time favorite books, and then Fourth Wing, which I actually really liked the first book in Fourth Wing, and then I tried reading the second book and I couldn't get into it, so I haven't continued with the series. And then I have Dracula below that. Below those are my books by She Who Must Not Be Named. And then I have the Emily Wilde trilogy and Lord of the Rings over my shoulder over there. And that's it. I think, however, we are ready to get started. I'm going to start pulling books off the shelf and sorting them. So let's get started. First stack I have are my Taylor Jenkins Reid books, and I think I am going to emboss all of these, but only 2 of them are going to get the gold stamp. The ones I'm going to just do a standard emboss for are Malibu Rising, which is probably my least favorite by TJR, Daisy Jones and the Six, which I really like but don't necessarily love. All right, the first one that is going to get a gold one is Carrie Soto Is Back. I feel like this is maybe like the least popular TJR book out there, but it is pretty much my all-time favorite, I think, up there with Atmosphere. Atmosphere is going to be the other one that gets a gold stamp, but I think the reason why I like Carrie Soto Is Back so much is twofold. Number one, I was a tennis player in high school, so I could really connect with some of the tennis storylines. And Carrie has a really intense relationship with her father, and I was raised by a single father, so that was kind of special to read that relationship that they had. I feel like I don't need to explain why I loved Atmosphere. I think because everybody loves Atmosphere, it is just understood. So these two are going to get the gold emboss sticker, and the rest of the books, including The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, are going to get just a standard emboss. I will say I am not going to talk about every single book that I pull off my shelf. I think at the end, once these are all sorted, I will go through my pile of books that are going to get the gold emboss, and aside from that, we're just going to keep moving. All right, all of the books are out. I have my stack here of books that are getting a regular emboss, and this is my stack of books that are not going to be embossed at all. It's not all because I don't like the books. So I have, for example, this collection here of Shakespeare plays, and I love so many of these plays. Like Othello is one of my favorite things ever. The reason why I'm not going to emboss these is that I got these for sale for $1 each at a used bookstore. I think someday I would really like to invest in a fancy collection of Shakespeare plays. I can very much see myself donating these in the future. I have a few other really cool books in this stack. A really cool leather-bound version of Charles Darwin's The Voyage of the Beagle, but this one is not mine. This belongs to my boyfriend. It probably shouldn't even be in my office. So anyways, that's why some of this stuff isn't getting embossed. All right, I'm not going to actively sort the books behind me because I already have an idea without sorting them what's going to happen. The Anne of Green Gables are all going to get in gold embossment just because I don't necessarily love them all equally, like some are better than others, but this series as a whole is just so wonderful to me that I just want it to all be the same. I think for Hunger Games, the only one that's going to get the gold stamp is going to be the first book. My Pride and Prejudice, I'll need to think about. I know I'm going to emboss all of them, but only a couple are going to get the gold stamp. Project Hail Mary is going to get gold. Fourth Wing, not sure if it will get anything yet. And Bram Stoker's Dracula will get gold. Emily Wilde, I'm not sure yet. And then Lord of the Rings is probably just going to get a standard emboss. That's why we haven't gone through here. And then I think before I move the camera and go do the other shelf, I think I might just get started embossing with these and then clean up the shelves and put these back. And then we'll quickly go do the other books. And as promised, I'll go through all of the gold books. We are going to do the first book, and that is going to be To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. This was one of the first books that I was like, wow, I really love that book. You know what? That's really fitting that my first favorite book is going to be the first one to get a gold sticker. Let's do it. All right, it is in there. There it is. Thank you again to my sister. I'm so excited to finally be doing this. I think the best way to go about this is to count the books that are going to get the gold sticker and go ahead and prep all of those at once and then put them on. So let's do that. Here is the stack of books that are going to get the gold sticker. So let's quickly go through these books. I have Ethan Frome by Edith Wharton. It was my freshman year and my teacher said, wow, that book is so depressing. You like it? And I remember just thinking, I love it. There's Ethan Frome. Then I have 2 copies of The Great Gatsby. So I might not actually emboss this one at all. I might maybe donate that. And then I'll emboss this special edition that I got at TJ Maxx of all places. But it has some sprayed edges and this really beautiful cover. All right, I also love Charles Dickens. This is a leather-bound edition of A Christmas Carol and Other Stories. It is definitely, A Christmas Carol specifically is definitely readable in one day. So I just love the idea of being able to pick this up on Christmas in the future and get cozy with a reread if I'm not reading anything else. I do not need to spend too much time talking about this because I have raved about it for the last 6 months. This is Bat Eater and Other Names for Corazing, quickly gone down as one of my favorite books. I am a sucker for classics, and so I have this special edition of Frankenstein. This is kind of a picture book version. I know this page I just pulled doesn't have a lot of pictures on it, but there are more. I have a YouTube short about this video about how nobody ever talks about it, but it's called The Ones We're Meant to Find by Joan He. This is like a young adult sci-fi climate fiction dystopian novel with an element of mystery, and once I started it I couldn't put it down. So this is also one of my favorite books. Here's another one I don't need to talk about too much because I also just raved about this in my Pride reading recommendations video, but this is How You Lose the Time War by Amal El-Mohtar and Max Gladstone. Could not put this down. The romance in this is just so beautiful. Writing is so lyrical and lush. I loved it so much I had to buy a special edition with some beautiful sprayed edges and beautiful interior covers, so I'm very excited to put a gold sticker in this one. The next one is Chocolat by Joanne Harris. This is one of my all-time favorite books ever. This is a book you all should read for fall because it has so much magical realism with witches and magic. The reason why I hesitate to put a sticker in this is because I would really like to find a special edition of this book, and I've been struggling to find one. Okay, next up is Devolution by Max Brooks. This is such a weird book about the book literally says it's a first-hand account of the Rainier Sasquatch Massacre. So it's weird, it's wacky, it's wild, but is a really intense horror novel, and it just had me on the edge of my seat. This is by the same author who wrote World War Z, which I also really love. I like this more than World War Z, so this is gonna get a gold sticker. All right, aside from the Taylor Jenkins Reid books that we already talked about, the last one is going to be Book Lovers by Emily Henry. I love it because of the really mature main character, but also the subplot of sisterhood. The main character is working to reconnect with her sister at the same time that she's having this budding romance with an enemies to lovers trope, which is my favorite romance trope. So yeah, this one I couldn't put this book down. Love this one. That is it for the gold stickers. So time to count these and get to stamping. Okay, we just wrapped up the gold stamp books from this shelf. I'm now going to go through the books that are getting a regular embossment, hoping those will go a little bit quicker since I don't need to stamp and then stick. I can just stamp directly into the book. So I'm going to do that now. All right, you guys, I'm going to take a short break. When I come back, we'll move over to the other shelf that I have in this room and go through that. All right, we are back and we are with the shelf that you all do not usually see. And it's just a hodgepodge. We've got some huge stacks and that's okay. Let's go ahead and start sorting this one. Oh my gosh. I didn't realize there were a ton of books behind all of these books. You'll see what I mean here in a few. I think you can start to see them. There's so many. What have I done? Okay. Wow. All right. Do you see what I mean? I just cleared out all those books and here we have more books. I think a lot of these are going to end up going upstairs and that's why they were hidden. I think when I did this, the upstairs didn't have shelves in it yet. So at least these have a place to go to now. Lord. We have some stacks here. Holy moly. I'm having a conundrum here as I was pulling a few of these out of the shelf. There are some books in these piles that I read over a decade ago. Things like Gone Girl. I loved this book when I first read it, but it's been such a long time since I read it that it doesn't feel like one of my favorite books anymore. Not sure what to think about that. Also, back when I didn't have a good book buying budget, I bought a lot of my books from thrift books and got the cheapest ones possible. So these have like library covers on them. If I were going to do it again, I would get some nicer copies of these. The point is like, I don't know if I even want to stamp these, even though I've read them and I liked them, but it's like, I don't know if these are going to be in my physical library forever. There's a couple of other books in here that are the few remaining on my physical TBR. Those I'm not going to stamp until I've read them and know what I want to do with them. Bunch of other books over here that were like gifted to me or I've been hanging on to since college. And so I want to keep them, but I'm not sure I even want to put like the regular emboss on them because I don't know, I'm just not that attached to them. So with that said, I have two piles here, this one and one you can't see. This one is going to get the regular emboss and the one you can't see is going to get the gold emboss, and we'll go through all of the gold ones together like we did before. The next book in my gold foil stamp stack is I Am Malala. This memoir, not only is it so like poignant and powerful, but it is gripping. Like I felt like I was reading like a fiction book the way that I was so hooked and couldn't put this down. So is The Absolutely True Diary of a Part-Time Indian by Sherman Alexie. It's about a boy from the Spokane Indian Reservation who ends up going to a white school and how he has to deal with basically the split personalities he ends up having. I mean, they're not split personalities, but you know, he doesn't fit in quite anywhere because he ends up splitting his time between these two places that are so wildly different. So he struggles with that, and this is a fantastic book. All right, the next one, I have definitely recommended this before. This is Pumpkinhead. This is a graphic novel, and if you're ever looking for something quick to read on Halloween Day that is cozy instead of spooky, this is the perfect book. All right, here is a classic that I haven't read since high school, and I don't even know how much I would still love it. I do need to reread it at some point, but this is Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. And when I first read this, I was obsessed with it. Okay, we're zooming in now. All right, this is a special edition of The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson. It's one of my favorite ghost stories of all time. I got into such a Shirley Jackson kick as a result, but this is the only one of my Shirley Jacksons that is going to get the gold foil stamp, but I love this book. Another one is The Perks of Being a Wallflower by Stephen Chbosky. That's hard to say. It's been so long since I read this book, and I have seen the movie, but I don't fully remember like much about this book other than it was so nostalgic and I loved it so much. Like it just reminded me of being an angsty teenager and feeling these huge feelings. So this is going to get a gold sticker. All right, you either love this book or you hate this book, but I love it, and some of my favorite booktubers love it. But anyways, this is I Who Have Never Known Men by Jacqueline Hartman. This is a dystopian novel, sci-fi, weird book. It is short. It is, well, it's not sweet. It is weird. And it has a very open-ended conclusion that drives people insane, but I couldn't put this book down. I still think about this book, and I hope to reread it someday. So that will get a gold stamp. This is American Fantasy by Emma Straub. This is also a signed copy. No, I did not meet the author, but I was able to get my hands on a signed copy, and I've talked about this book a lot recently, so I won't go into it now. Then I have some like kids, like middle grade books that I'm going to give gold stamps to just because they have been with me for so long and they were always my favorites as a kid and they are just so meaningful to me. So the first one is Bridge to Terabithia. Yeah, if you haven't read this, oh boy, this book wrecked me when I was in like elementary school. So yeah. And then after that, I have a few Sharon Creech books. She, I think, is most well known for Walk Two Moons or whatever that book is called. But my favorites are Bloomability and Chasing Redbird. If you know, you know. These books are amazing. So they're getting gold stamps. That is everything. So I need 15 gold stickers over here, and then we can get back into putting things away and whatnot. Here we go. Okay, we are done with all of the gold stamps. Now I'm going to get into embossing the rest. All right, that is all the books I want to stamp from this shelf. All right, you guys, I needed to finish the shelves off camera because my back was killing me and it was just a mess. So what I ended up doing was I moved a whole bunch of books up to the lounge, so out of my office. I made some space on my shelves. These used to be like, there used to be no gaps in here at all. So there's some space now if I get some new books, which will be nice. And I thought we could just do a quick tour of what is left on the shelves. To get started, my Taylor Jenkins Reid books, and then I have American Fantasy by Emma Straub, Book Lovers by Emily Henry. And then I have some of my contemporary horrors and thrillers. Below those are a few of my favorite classics. And then we have my Shakespeare plays. Above Shakespeare, I have some more classics, partly just because they fit nicely next to the hardcovers. Then I have my romantasy stack here. There's two books I could put here, but then I'd have an empty space on my other shelf. I have the duology for One Dark Window and Two Twisted Crowns by Rachel Gillig, and I feel like they would go really well with these books, but I'm just going to leave it for now because if you'll see I have Long Shadow and 10,000 Stitches. I still cannot find Half a Soul, but if I found it, it would go here, and so then I also have Mate and Bride together. And then above that, these just fit nicely here, and I don't really know what to call these books, but I guess they're just some of my favorite contemporary novels. So that's it for this bookshelf. I did go through and stamp or sticker all of the books behind me on the console. So let's move over to the other shelf. All right, I don't remember what camera angle I was doing before that made this work so well. This is going to be quick, so I'm going to be chopped off a little bit, but you can see the books. I have the One Dark Window duology that I was talking about right here. This is my TBR shelf. These are some of the only books I own that I haven't read yet. And I had Halloween Party by Agatha Christie up in the lounge. And when I was putting some other books away, I saw it and I grabbed it out because I was like, I keep forgetting I own this. And honestly, we're only a few months away from fall. And I really want to read that this September or October. So I figured I should put it on this shelf before I forget about it. And the other books on here are The Left Hand of Darkness by Ursula K. Le Guin, Witch King by Martha Wells, which I bought after I fell in love with the Murderbot series, and A Head Full of Ghosts by Paul Tremblay. That's the top shelf. Down here, just two big stacks. This stack here is kind of my horror stack. Some of my favorites on here are going to be The Exorcist, The Haunting of Hill House, Episode 13, and of course we talked about Pumpkinheads and The Watchers. This shelf is a mix of like classics and lit-fics and just stuff that fits together. Yeah, this is just kind of filling space, to be honest. Finally, at the bottom, I know you can't see these very well, but I realized I had 3 memoirs, and so I put them down here in this mini shelf, and I was just really excited to have a nonfiction section that wasn't just like a one-off. You know, I had like 3 books that I like that are memoirs. And then this shelf is my middle grade young adult shelf that I talked about with Sharon Creech, Bridge to Terabithia, My Side of the Mountain, The Giver, and Ender's Game. Yeah. Everything is stamped and labeled, and we're all done. Thank you all for hanging out with me, letting me give you a mini shelf tour, stamping my favorite books together, and just a shout out and a thank you to my sister for giving me my book embosser. As always, thank you for watching my videos. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Have a great week, everyone, and I'll see you next time. Bye!